go on Monday night for Brett and I. That's what the Pillars do, though. This is episode 92 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy. As always, we are giving out the hottest picks in the NFL and college football and a special preview at the Masters, which starts on Thursday. But first, let's go through hindsight with Higgins. Brett, I mentioned the Pillars. I mentioned Monday Night Football. I should have known better when a Jets fan was picking the Patriots minus 10. And then in our group chat that we're in later that day, I found out that there was a Patriots fan that was on Jets plus 10. What is the world coming to right now?
Well, Joe Flacco was starting for the Jets, so I think we were on the right side of that one, Higgins. Sometimes you lose.
Yes, you do. And we still have some bets out right now with our Maction bets that we gave out. Can't give a positive or negative on the Central Michigan minus 6.5 for me or Brett, your Ball State minus 8.5 and the over in the Western Michigan game. So as of right now, you and I are both sitting at 0-2 as we're recording this, but those will be done and updated in the posting of this. So who knows? Hopefully we can go 1-2, maybe 2-2 in your case.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be a lot better than over.
Well, let's talk about Beginners Boulevard because it has been a big week in college football news because of the coronavirus. So we're going to talk about off the board. When a sportsbook stops taking wagers on an event or a participant, they remove the game odds from the board. This can happen for a variety of reasons, including weather, injury, or as we've seen this year, COVID.
Yeah, we have tons of games off the board, some still in question, Higgins. Cal, Arizona State, by the time this comes out, could be off the board. Right now, we're not even sure, so we'll have to keep watching. But yeah, the COVID has definitely made this a relevant term for bettors everywhere.
Now, if you bet on, say, the Ohio State Maryland game before it was canceled, then that money would be returned to you because the game obviously doesn't take place. However, uh, that's why, Brett, you and I have really been recommending people wait till the day of to place their bets because who knows, maybe some line movement goes in your favor, but also just some coronavirus cases haven't even canceled games, but it's taken some key players off the field. So we've been a little more cautious over here on Next Best Bet.
Yeah, it's definitely the best way to go, I think, is to wait until you have all the information because, if you placed a bet early, you may have missed Baker Mayfield coming off the COVID list or Ben Roethlisberger going on the COVID list. So it's always fluid in all sports. And I think you're right, Higgins, especially this year. We definitely need to wait at least to a few hours before game time. You could feel pretty safe day of game, I guess, but even still, I'd like to wait hour before tip off or kickoff or tee off.
Well, there will be football, college football, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week, so you can place them day of every single day in the next few days. But there has been a lot of cancels or canceled games so far this week, the highest amount that we've seen so far in football.
Yeah, a ton of games have been canceled. Some have been postponed, moved to later dates. We'll see what happens because if these continue to pile up, it'll be tough to move more and more games. But we start off Louisiana Monroe at Arkansas State in the Sun Belt, Ohio State, Maryland, Georgia, Missouri, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Memphis, Navy, Auburn, Mississippi State, Alabama, LSU, Air Force, Wyoming. And I'll mention Cal ASU again because, that one's up in the air. So it's worth mentioning and being aware of that, hey, this game may or may not get played. But Higgins, those are some big teams. Number 1, Alabama. Number 5, A&M. 3, Ohio State. 12, Georgia. Those are some big names that are not playing this weekend.
Yes, they are. You mentioned 9 games, that's 18 teams, across 6 different conferences that have had to cancel games. 4 of those games being in the SEC. Now, that is concerning to me at the future of the SEC season if they're potentially canceling these right now. But Brett, to get into the games that actually are going on right now, we'll talk about Friday's game in a second, but I want to talk about Wisconsin because we're talking about the coronavirus real quick. And Wisconsin's just coming out of their coronavirus spell that had their games canceled for a few weeks. And they are going to go and play Michigan, a team that is down, a team that lost to their rival Michigan State, that lost to number 13 Indiana, who I took on the money line last week because I thought they've made me a believer in a little bit. But Wisconsin, they are heading to Michigan for that rivalry game, and those guys must be healthy or not banged up, at least, as you would be having played 2 football games like Michigan has. And they must be hungry because they're playing Michigan, whereas Michigan's probably beaten up a little bit. There might be some infighting considering they've lost 2 games that they probably wish they should have won. I think Wisconsin, ranked 13 in the country, is going to come in and grab that W.
Yeah,
So I am taking. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I should say what part of that I am taking. I'm taking Wisconsin -3.5.
all good, man. I'm glad you clarified. But yeah, I mean, Wisconsin blew out Michigan a year ago. I don't expect it to be as big of a blowout, but I would take Wisconsin in this spot as well. That's where I'd be leaning. I stayed away because I'm a little worried about the rest versus Russ thing. Michigan, although they haven't played well, have played the last few weeks, so that might be beneficial to them. And also, Wisconsin's starting quarterback Graham Mertz was one of the players that tested positive, so I'm not even sure what he's been able to do practice wise or not. So that concerns me a little bit, but I Wisconsin runs the ball. They play behind that O line. They have one of the better defenses in college football. They're not Northwestern good. They're not Northwestern good, Higgins, but Wisconsin's pretty good at moving the ball via the ground, and I think 3.5 is definitely within reason here.
Well, so to your point about concern over Mertz, he still is in protocol, so he has not been able to practice yet. But they say he could play against Michigan, and I'm guessing that's probably why that line is at 3.5, and it would probably lengthen if you find out or confirm whether he's going to play or not.
Yeah, I mean he was great in their I guess only game.
248 yards, 5 touchdown passes in a slaughtering over Illinois. I think that's enough of that game, though. Let's talk about the Thursday, Friday night that we have. Because, like I said, we got college football Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. So if the Thursday night football in the NFL doesn't interest you, Colorado State at Boise State might on Thursday night. And then if that game doesn't interest you, there's 3 on Friday, and at least one of those should interest you.
Yeah, I mean number 7 Cincinnati in action, Minnesota Iowa in the Big 10. And the second week in a row, we get the blue turf on national TV midweek. So I'm all about that, Higgins. But let's focus in on your Bearcats. You've been on them all year.
Yes, Cincinnati's made me a believer. I keep picking them. They keep cashing checks, so why not pick them again? -27.5, that did scare me a little bit. It did scare me a little bit, except for the fact that East Carolina is 1-5 on the season. They've allowed 38 points per game. Cincinnati averages 39. So I think Cincinnati's going to score in the 40s, maybe the 50s. 4 touchdowns should be clearable in this. That's a lot to take, but I'm confident in the Bearcats. Ranked number 7, going to continue to try to strengthen that resume. And when you have a team that's 1-5 on your schedule, especially a mid-major, you have to put on a strong performance if you're trying to get that college football playoff spot that you and I have been talking about routinely over the past few weeks for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be interesting if them or BYU. I mean, for instance, Ohio State this week, Higgins, they're not playing because of COVID. So there's an undefeated Cincinnati or BYU. get more respect than an undefeated Ohio State, something to watch. Maybe did they get more respect than a one-loss Clemson, something to watch. Uh, but we've got a great slate of games that are happening on Saturday. Felipe Franks makes his return to Florida to take on the man who replaced him, Higgins. Florida's minus 17.5 in this one. We're not on it. I just wanted to mention it. But a game I am on is in the ACC is Miami at Tech. Miami, number 9 in the country, travels to Tech. De'Aaron Kings look great for the Hurricanes. They're plus 1.5 on the road in this spot, and I'm just going to be honest, Higgins. I haven't seen enough out of Tech. This may be a trap here where I say, oh, the number 9 team in the country. Tech's a tough place to go in and win a football game. They're a respectable team, but I just think Miami's played well, and I believe in De'Aaron King and this Miami Hurricanes offense to get it done.
I believe a little bit more than you do.
Ooh.
I believe about 1.5 more than you do, because instead of taking the spread, I'm taking the money line. Yes, it's hard to win at Tech, but you know who won at Tech? Liberty. Last week, 38-35. Now, they were the number 25 team in the country, but no one really expected that to actually happen. And Miami ranked number 9, a much more tried and true with a quarterback like De'Aaron King that you mentioned. They're going to get this win. It's disrespectful to not have them favored in this game. Give me them at plus 104. I feel like they should be favored by at least a field goal in this game. It makes me laugh. It makes me laugh.
Well, I'm glad you're chuckling. Hopefully, we end up laughing all the way to the bank.
I hope so too. Otherwise, I'll look like a laughing fool.
But you mentioned Indiana earlier. They traveled to Michigan State this week. That's another team you said you started to believe in, Higgins.
Yes, I mentioned Indiana earlier. I mentioned Michigan State when we were talking about Michigan hosting Wisconsin. Now, Michigan State, I thought, may have proved themselves with that big win against Michigan. They looked great. They sounded great, all of that. Then they went and they got embarrassed by Iowa at home, 49-7 last week. Meanwhile, Indiana proved themselves getting a win over Michigan. Let's not forget they also have a common opponent against Rutgers, who Michigan State also lost to, and Indiana won. So you know what? Indiana made me a believer. I took them on the money line as the underdog last week. I'm going to take them as the favorite on the spread this week, minus 7.5. I'm okay with the touchdown and the hook because I think the Spartans are going to fall again, even though this does feel a little bit like a trap game because of how well they won when they were in Michigan playing against Michigan. Maybe, no. Indiana minus 7.5. I almost changed it live, but I'm not going to. No.
Almost changed it live. Okay. I like it. Indiana minus 7.5. Well, sticking in the Big Ten, I'm going to hop on over to Penn State at Nebraska. And boy, have the mighty fallen. But not enough for me to stay away from this game because I'm on it. Or I'm really close to being on it, Higgins. I haven't placed my bet yet, but Nebraska plus 3.5 at home versus a really bad Penn State team. I think Nebraska's going to make a quarterback change this week, honestly. I think it's going to be Luke McCaffrey. He looked really good in the fourth quarter versus Northwestern last week. And if they make that change, I'm all in on this bet. I'm really close to making it regardless, but Luke McCaffrey's going to be the difference in this one for me. If I wake up Saturday morning and I know for sure he's my guy, I'm definitely backing the Huskers in that game.
I know that's what a lot of the Husker fans that I personally know expect to happen is to see Luke start the game. They think that the Adrian Martinez experiment may be done, a long fall from him starting last year as a Heisman hopeful on the short list for betting lists. he was there. He was around like plus 1400, I think, last year at the start of last season. He went from being a Heisman hopeful to losing. Now, losing his job to Luke McCaffrey is not a shortfall, really, only because McCaffrey is a legit quarterback. His brother, Christian McCaffrey, obviously a fantastic athlete. Luke McCaffrey's shown that he can be trusted in those late minutes, put together some strong performances in the fourth, even though Nebraska didn't necessarily get the win last week. I'm not on that game yet, but I would say that I'm with you on leaning depending on what I hear about McCaffrey if he actually gets the starter.
Also, just interesting to note because, we got to give everyone the information, right? Penn
Mm-hmm.
State says they're sticking with Sean Clifford, but there's talks of a quarterback change in Happy Valley as well. So the double quarterback change, I don't know if that becomes a factor at all, but just lots of interest for me in this one, honestly. For two pretty not good teams, you know what? I'll just say it, Higgins. For two pretty bad teams, uh, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what these new quarterbacks might be able to do.
Now, since you brought up Penn State, I do want to mention there was news about Penn State this afternoon. Their running back, Journey Brown, is medically retiring from football. When he went through the COVID testing earlier this season, they found a heart-related issue. It's not COVID-related, but it does jeopardize his ability to play football. He was put on like the medically reserved list for this season, and he's deciding he's going to be retiring instead. So big news out of the Penn State backfield and for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, wow. I mean, we talked about that when it happened, and that is huge news. And obviously, we're thinking of Journey Brown and his family. I'm sure that's not the news he wanted, but I'm glad they found it before something tragic happened.
Absolutely, absolutely. Preventative measures are always best in the medical field. But let's jump out of some college football now because, like you said, we have the Masters to talk about. It starts on Thursday, the day this episode comes out. We're going to have some picks. I gave one out in our last episode of Tiger at plus 2,800. If you didn't take that yet, it's now at plus 3,500. And I'm still happy with this, even though, as you and I were talking about before the show started, there's a lot of sharks and a lot of betting experts that are saying the odds on Tiger are too low. But maybe I'm just a little bit of a contrarian that when everyone says stay away, that kind of draws me in because, I mean, it's Tiger. The odds are the odds. If he wins, it's still a good payout. I mean, it's Tiger.
It is Tiger. It is Tiger, and I'm sure you're not the only one thinking that. But I mean, to your point, he won a year ago, so I get anything's possible. I I'm not on that personally, but I'm rooting for it, so I guess I'm rooting for you, Higgins. I guess you
Well,
could take solace in that.
and just for some context, for those that may be wondering about the possibilities of back-to-backs, because Tiger is the returning winner from last year, the returning champion. He did win back-to-backs in 2001 and 2002, so he's done it before. He has 5. Jack Nicklaus has the record for 6 Masters. Does Tiger have another back-to-back in him to tie Jack Nicklaus in a baller way? I'm willing to risk it to say yes.
All right, I'm in it for you. Now, is that a full unit?
That's a full unit.
Wow, I love it, Higgins. You're backing your guy, and I respect it. I have a few full unit bets, I guess, to win outright. I'm taking Brooks Kepka at plus 1,800. Typically, when Brooks Kepka plays well, it's in majors, and it's when he plays well the week before a major, and he finished in the top 5 last week, Higgins. So that's a good sign for me. So plus 1,800 for Brooks Kepka to win outright. I'll put a full unit on that. And Justin Thomas at plus 1,200. Another guy who hits the ball long and far. And with the rain, I don't expect the balls to roll as far, which is honestly probably why Bryson DeChambeau is the favorite because of the conditions and how far he hits it. But I like Justin Thomas at where his odds are at plus 1,200. I think he's going to be in the top 5. So why not take plus 1200 to win? And then I am throwing a half unit on a long shot plus 6,500.
Woof.
Cameron Smith. He's played pretty well. He has a top 10 finish at Augusta. So, you take those two factors in and you take it where his odds are at. Sure, I'll put a half unit on that.
Why not? I mean, plus 6,500, why not throw a half unit on it? Now, you mentioned a name that I kind of want to caution to stay away from. It's the front runner of the predicted outright favorite, Bryson DeChambeau, who's plus 700 in Oregon as I look at it right now. I heard he was on the range earlier this week testing out a 48-inch driver, which is the maximum length a driver can be in the PGA Tour. Now, he has been known all throughout this 2020 year for just launching that ball because of the amount of muscle mass that he put on while he was in quarantine. He's become a big man that launches that ball a very far way, and lengthening that shaft to 48 inches only would extend how far he could potentially hit it because it helps him with his swing speed. Now, messing with what driver you are using the week of the Masters when you are the favorite to win doesn't sit right with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend on betting him. I was just explaining simply that with the conditions, someone that hits the ball as far as him would be enticing.
Yes.
And again, to your point, someone changing their swing the week of the Masters would probably not be enticing. So
sounds concerning.
Look, we're here to give everyone the information. We're not placing the bets for people.
Well, those are our outright picks, but you have a pick for round 1, and I have one other Masters pick as well, and they're kind of intertwined.
Well, I feel like this is you getting back at me for hopping on that Patriots minus 10 in our last episode late. You saw my bet here, and you're like, I'm just gonna fade Brett because he screwed me on those Pats. But
not quite, but close.
Not quite, but close. Thanks, Higgins. But here's my thing. I think Jordan Spieth could be the leader after round 1. He's done it 3 times in the past, Higgins, and at plus 3,400. To have a little action that will be done after Thursday, I'll put a half unit on that.
Okay. Now, I think Jordan Spieth's going to miss the cut, though, is the thing.
So could he do that on the second day?
Well, I guess he technically could. He could have an absolute blow-up of a second day like he did with the U.S. Open, where he shot an 81 on the second day. That could potentially make both of these happen, but I'm taking Justin Spieth plus 175 to miss the cut because in his past three of his past 5 tournaments, he's missed the cut, including in the U.S. Open. His most recent tournament, the Vivint Houston Open, he missed the cut. Now, he did make the 2 before that, but then he missed in the U.S. Open and the Safeway Open, both of those being back in September. So, only 2 for 5 plus 175 odds. I like that enough to throw a unit on that as well. And you know what? If that hits, it covers the loss if Tiger doesn't win.
I like that way of thinking. So, all right. I mean, look, man, I hope you lose because, well, let's put it this way. If I don't win my round 1 bet, then I hope you win. But root for me first. Like, don't
Okay.
go full in on you all off the bat.
Okay. If he starts off pretty strong, obviously I'll root for him. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just a bet. I love seeing golf. I love seeing good golf. I love seeing good golf, and it would be nice to see Jordan Spieth get a Masters win.
It's just nice to have you on my side sometimes. But I know you're on Tiger. I just want to bring it up because I saw this bet on FanDuel, and honestly, it was one of the more interesting bets I've seen. Tiger Woods, over under for round 1, Higgins, 71.5. Is he under par after round 1?
Yes. I don't know if it's by
Ooh.
much. I don't know if he breaks 70, but I say yes.
I That number is so good. It's like, is he gonna be even, -1, +1? I think he's over par, unfortunately, Higgins. I would take the over on that 71.5, but I think that speaks to who we are. You're very pro Tiger this weekend. I'm a little bit more in the fade Tiger crowd, but I love that line. It was a great line posted by FanDuel, and I just wanted to bring it up.
That line is actually identical to the line that there is in Oregon as well. It's at 71.5.
Yeah,
And
great
just for
line.
some data surrounding that line, Tiger Woods, if you go to the Masters website, you can look at what every golfer averages at Augusta. Tiger has played 82 rounds at Augusta, his best round being a 65. His average is 70.93. So close to where that line is.
Yeah, like pretty much right on that 71. So, I mean, that's good information to have.
Yes, and the right above that is 100 or more rounds, which Tiger will inevitably get to. It'll just take a few more years. He's 18 rounds away. But Jack Nicklaus leads that at 71.98. So, Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear, many call potentially the greatest golfer of all time, averages par golf at Augusta, or just under.
There you go. What a stat.
That's a good stat. I like that. I love good, interesting little tidbits like that. There's also a nice little tidbit like that in our money line magic, which has to be that Patriots Jets game. Now, Brett, the Jets started off so well, and I'll let you talk about the good parts first. So you build it up.
Well, the good part was the ending for me. No, but I mean, Joe Flacco played his best game since that Super Bowl run. I think
Yes.
most Jet fans were sitting there kind of nervous, like, "Uh-oh, are we gonna do it? Are we gonna do it?" Rashard Perryman had 2 touchdowns. Now, this was the first time all year that the Jets actually had all their wide receivers healthy. They had their O line that they anticipated being healthy, so everything was in place except the quarterback. And Flacco kind of turned back the clock there for a little bit, but in turning back the clock, he also brought back his late interceptions, and that kind of helped the Jets out here as they blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead to New England, Higgins.
Well, so they had a 10-point lead at halftime that the Patriots cut into, but the Jets scored right back to make it a 10-point lead going into the fourth. And then a Nick Folk field goal. And then Cam Newton, who hadn't been doing a lot, he had been struggling against the Jets, it seemed. He runs in a 1-yard run after capping off an 11-play drive to tie it up at 27-27. And I already mentioned his name, but Nick Folk drives home the win for New England with a 51-yard field goal to end the game. And what's so special about that name, Nick Folk?
Former Jet.
Former Jet, so at least one Jet won for the night.
Well, I mean, I don't. I want the Jets to go out and try and win every game. I think that's what the players are doing, but at the same time, that was a big loss for the New York Jets and the future of this franchise. So it was a very exciting night. And on top of that, Steve Cohen, best owner in baseball. Everything's coming up, Brett. Everything's turning up, Millhouse.
There we go. Well, this episode is presented by Wild CBD. Wild produces the best tasting edibles on the market using real fruit and all natural flavoring with flavors inspired by the Pacific Northwest, high quality ingredients, real fruit, and consistent dosing. Wild has become one of the leading cannabis edible producers in the country. Wild's new CBD line currently offers real fruit infused gummies in blackberry, huckleberry, lemon, and raspberry, and CBD infused sparkling water in raspberry, lemon, blackberry, and blood orange. Each gummy is dosed with 25 milligrams of CBD and can be purchased in a bottle of 10 or 20. Wild CBD is offering our listeners 30% off their next purchase from wildcbd.com by using the code POD. That's code POD, P-O-D, for 30% off your next purchase at wildcbd.com. That's spelled W-Y-L-D CBD.com. Wild CBD products are intended only for use by individuals aged 18 and older. Wild CBD products should only be consumed as directed on the label and should not be used if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. All Wild CBD products are made with ingredients containing 0% THC. Consult with a health professional prior to using Wild CBD in combination with any medications or other dietary supplements. Now, Brett, on to the NFL, and we have an AFC South showdown that is going to basically determine, is this going to be a race to the end of the season between these two teams, or are the Titans going to grab a rather commanding lead in their division to take another step closer to locking it up? I think that's what's going to happen with the Titans versus the Colts this Thursday. Titans plus 100 on the money line. I like those odds because personally I think they should be favored at home. They got a win last week. The Colts lost at home to Baltimore, yet for some reason the Colts, who are a loss worse on the season than the Tennessee Titans, for some reason the Colts are the favorite. It doesn't make sense to me. Titans are going to win this game, and Derrick Henry is going to run out the clock.
This is a very confusing line for me, too. I know Indianapolis has a great run defense, but I just was surprised when I saw it, and I wanted to be like you, Higgins. I wanted to hop right on it, but I'm like, let me just stay away because this is really confusing to me and I don't understand it. So I just don't understand why Tennessee is dogs here, and that is honestly why I'm staying away.
Well, I hopped on this game twice because not only do I think that the Titans are going to win this game, Brett, get this, I think the under is going to hit. Under 48.5. And now I don't talk about taking the under a lot. So when an under is speaking to me, that kind of says something, because I typically either only take the over or I'm not interested. But the Colts, their defense leads the league in fewest yards allowed per game. The Titans have Derrick Henry, who they love to hand the ball to and run the clock out and make it a slow game. I don't think that there's going to be 7 touchdowns in this game. 48.5, give me that under, because I think that this is going to be close to what that Colts score last week was, of about like a 24-10, maybe 24-21. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I mean, I could definitely see this being an under. The whole I'm so thrown off by how the home team is dogs in this one, and they're Tennessee. We would both say Tennessee's probably the better team. It's just very confusing.
It is. It's very confusing.
It makes me think that Vegas knows something that I am just completely oblivious to.
Someone knows something.
Yeah, what are they hiding? Exactly. I need to hire Sherlock Holmes before I bet on this game.
Might be a smarter call to place that bet like right before game time, because maybe some late info comes out that they're holding a little close to the chest or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be like a conspiracy theorist, but it just does not. That line did not make sense. I 100% agree with you. Plus 100, why not?
Yeah, even money. Even money's good money.
Yeah.
But let's jump into Sunday, Brett. There's some interesting games in this one. Let's start off with the Giants-Eagles game that I could not hop on this time. As a Giants fan, Giants nearly got that win last time, and I have no idea how to read this game.
Well, I've been taking your New York Giants all season as dogs, Higgins. They've been cashing for me all season as dogs. They're dogs here, but I actually think this is where the train stops. This is where I hop off the train, get off at the station, go get a nice dinner in Philadelphia, because I'm taking the Eagles minus 3.5. To be honest with you, the Eagles are getting healthier and the Giants really aren't. I mean, they're not getting more injured, but they're not getting anyone back. So,
Hmm.
Philly getting people back, I expect them to be more like the team we anticipated coming into the year. And if Philly's going to win the division, these are the games they need to win. So, I expect Philly to cover the 3.5 here as they continue to get a little bit healthier.
Hey, to that point, if Philly's going to win the division, these are the games they need to win. If the Giants are going to win the division, these are the games they need to win because the Eagles only have 3 wins. They're 3-4-1. So they are the head of the division, but then everyone else has 2 wins and at least 6 losses. So you have to get at least a game over the Eagles right now because of that tie that they have. That's going to play big for the Eagles in this terrible NFC East, I think. But if the Giants want a chance to keep this season alive, this is a must-win game.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to call a week 10 game must win for both teams, but this is it. This is a big game in the NFC East right here, and I have to be on it as a person that lives in New York. It's my duty as a person in New York City to bet this game.
It's one of the requirements to be eligible to vote, right, is to bet on Giants games.
Yeah, well, it's actually when the Giants play the Eagles, you shut down your building, and you bet on the game. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just following my lease.
I've heard that. I've heard that. That makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes sense. We
yeah.
have another division matchup. This week's full of some divisional matchups from the Thursday night game, the Giants, the Eagles. We've got Bucks versus Panthers here, Brett, and I gotta say, I'm taking Panthers money line, and I'm just giving you one name, Christian McCaffrey. He's back. He's
He's
back. He
actually
played.
not back. Well, he
Oh
might be back.
no!
He's like we're not really sure. He's questionable.
Well, actually, he's listed as doubtful,
Oh,
at
he's
least from what
doubtful
I'm
now.
looking at. From what I'm looking at. But you know
Dear,
what?
dear.
It's a conspiracy. I'm taking it anyways. Christian McCaffrey's going to play. He scored a touchdown last week. He broke the mold. He is back, and Tom Brady's going to be slamming his helmet against the benches again. I don't know what I saw from Tom Brady last week, and I have no reason why I would want to bet on the Bucks after the performance I saw him put on against the Saints.
Oh, this is a bounce back spot. 100%. This is a bounce back spot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was week one. You could blame it on a million things. There was supposed to be a hurricane coming in. All this stuff happened. Blah, 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 blah. Throw that game out the window. Tampa Bay -5. Probably the easiest bet I had on Sunday. Actually, I think I have one easier. Higgins.
You're not talking about that Eagles bet, are you?
No, not that
Okay.
Eagles bet. A
Okay.
different bird. A different
Okay.
bird. I like the Seattle Seahawks on the road in Los Angeles, but that doesn't really matter. No fans. Although the Seahawks have lost back-to-back road games. Interesting to note. But Seattle on the road in LA +2. I mean, I got to roll with the guy who's probably the favorite to be the MVP right now in this spot.
Yeah, considering that loss against the Bills, and I was on the Seahawks last week, I thought that they were going to travel to Buffalo and play well. You'd have to imagine there's a refocused offense with that Seahawks team that realizes that they are going to have to be the better half of this Seattle team this year. And I mean, for a while, Russell Wilson was able to hang his hat on the Legion of Boom, which has been disbanded for a few years now, but Seattle's defense was the selling point of Seattle for a long time, and now it's Russell Wilson's offense is going to need to carry that team, and I think it can carry that team. I think they will bounce back here with you. I'm not going to be on that game with you as well, though.
Yeah, I just think this is again a bounce back spot for Seattle. They desperately need a road win, having mentioned that they've lost their last two on the road. And the defense can't play any worse, so I expect them to get a little bit better as Jamal Adams continues to get healthy, as Carlos Dunlap continues to get integrated. So I expect slight improvement from the defense, not major improvement. I'm not expecting them to make a jump, but slight improvement. And if the offense can keep doing what they're doing, I mean, DK Metcalf right now, first round pick in fantasy next year. I think so.
Hey, I've loved him. I've loved him on my team.
I think
But I'm
he's
going to be on one of the different late games, which, by the way, Brett, this might be the most balanced Sunday slate of NFL that we've seen in a while. There's one, two, three. There's five 10 a.m. or 1 p.m. Eastern time kickoffs. Then there's five 4:30, 1:30 kickoffs, and there's the Sunday night game. It's actually balanced for once.
I don't know why they can't do it. I mean, I guess it's what time zone they're in, but like, who cares if an East Coast game kicks off at 4? I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah,
Who am I? I'm not the schedule maker. I'm just Brett on Next Best Bet.
but I'm going to be eyeing this Chargers Dolphins game, Brett. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the first battle of what I think will be multiple between Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa. I think that this is going to be a little bit of a proving ground for both quarterbacks, so I think it's going to be a little bit of a scoring battle. So over 48 is what I'm going to be taking, and I do have some other reasoning for this. Now, if you look at the Chargers' schedule so far this year, they have played 8 games. Their last 5 games, every over has hit. Their first 3 games, they all hit the under. Then Justin Herbert came in. And they started hitting overs.
And they started hitting overs. That science.
Science. Justin
That
Herbert hits overs. It's what he does.
that is science, ladies and gentlemen. So can't argue that. That is as good as it gets, Higgins. That is concrete.
Yeah, so over 48, that doesn't seem too low for me either. I'll be taking that, and that's going to round out my Sunday round of bets. But maybe we'll post a few other ones on our social media as well, at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. So make sure to follow us there because we'll probably have some Saturday and Sunday bets as well. But Brett, before we get out of here, we got the Levy lock and the pick of the pod. So I think since we had some bets that were out there right now, let's check and see, have they finished? I don't think the Central Michigan game's done yet. No, they're still up 33-0 in the fourth quarter, but it looks like that one's going to clear. So
Hey,
I'll
that
go
one
1 and
looks
2. I
good.
won't go winless. That's nice. Your Ball State, how's that looking?
So Ball State, that game looks like it's about to be over. Ball State is up 7, 38-31. And then Toledo and Western Michigan, I took the over in this game. Score is currently 31-21, which right now would be the under, but one more touchdown in that one, and the over cashes, Higgins.
And at least from what I'm looking at, Toledo just drove into the red zone. So looks like you may hit that over on this drive. So hopefully we'll each come out of here with a win. I'm going to give you the honors for the Levy lock pick of the pod, though. So let us know what you're going to be on. What's your lock of the day?
Oh, well, I mean, now knowing that Justin Herbert has never hit an under, I'm leaning towards that over, but I'm going to stick with my pick. Seattle +2. I think this is a bounce back spot. I also really like Tampa. I debated Tampa for my Levy lock, but Seattle felt like the safer of the two. So the Seahawks +2 points at the Rams. Lock it in.
If I was going the NFL route for my pick of the pod, that over would be my pick. For the NFL, that's the pick that
Well,
I'm
he's
most
never
confident in.
he's never hit
He's
an
never hit an
under.
under.
He's
He's just
never hit
never
an
hit an under.
under. I
But I'm going
mean,
to the college route for my pick of the pod. I told you I thought it was disrespectful that Virginia Tech is favored against the Miami Hurricanes after the Hokies just lost at home to Liberty, who had just cracked into the top 25. Miami's way far past cracking in the top 25. They're in the top 10. They're ranked at number 9. They just came off a big win against NC State, 44-41. I think they are going to get it done. I know they're going to get it done. Moneyline plus 104, Miami Hurricanes. That's the pick of the pod right there.
All right, that's it. I like it, Higgins. Let's get some W's this weekend.
Absolutely. So like I said, we may have some more picks through the weekend as well. So follow us on our social media at NBBpod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel, where we'll be posting our other picks that we may not have had in time for this podcast. This has been episode 92 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again after the weekend.